glad to have you here alongside Michigan's retirement coach, certified financial planner, Mike Douglas. If you have questions about your retirement plan, Mike is here to help you get some answers, and you can begin that conversation. Find us at michigansretirementcoach.com. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there. Also, our YouTube channel is a place where you can go to listen to all the podcasts, watch all the videos, subscribe, comment on the videos. You can comment your questions there and thoughts about stuff that's going on. Just search Michigan's Retirement Coach on YouTube, and you can find us that way as well. Because we live in the digital world, the digital age. It's all about all the digitization. We were talking about, what were we talking about before we came on the podcast today? We were talking about my senior year college project and how I had this idea. I was shouting out, I invented DoorDash.
I invented DoorDash.
I invented DoorDash.
Yeah.
Because it was 2002 when I graduated from college, and our senior project, we came up with this idea about having a driver pick up your food, not just pizza, from anywhere, and pick up your DVD from back in the day, Blockbuster, and they would drop it off at your house. But it was before apps and iPhone technology and all these things. So we didn't have the intelligence. It would have been, now obviously the whole idea concept.
There was no platform or
right.
arena to create that in.
Right.
Like now it's so easy to create something like that because the arena has been created. The app store has been created. There is this world of digital
2002.
exchange.
Right. It was 2002. Yeah. So the internet was there. So that
I was still
the
writing checks and balancing my checkbook.
Well, I went to Virginia Tech they were on the cusp, on the cutting edge of web technology. I remember we had Ethernet at college when I was starting, and my dad, when we went to play, he was so excited. You never seen it. It was like a kid in a candy shop plugging in. He brought his laptop so he could plug into the Virginia Tech Ethernet. He was like, "What? I just click a link and the page pops up."
Mm-hmm.
So we did have the whole idea of website, and that's how we were kind of conceptualizing the idea. If only Steve Jobs had been around at the time. Well, he was around at the time, obviously, but was he with Apple in the early 2000s? Was that the phase of life when he had been?
He came back, I believe, in 98 or 99.
Okay. I don't remember the exact timeline. It's hard to believe it's been 13 years since Steve Jobs passed away, co-founder of Apple.
97, he returned to Apple.
Okay, got it. So he was just coming back then. He was just beginning to revolutionize Apple and turning it into what it would become before his passing 13 years ago. One of his most famous quotes, he said, quote, "Being the richest man in the cemetery does not matter to me. It's going to bed at night saying that we've done something wonderful at Apple. That's what matters to me." And considering Apple's success, considering the fact that we all walk around with, not all of us, but right here, I've got my little iPhone, right, with all the apps, all the technology, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
The legacy plan has come to fruition as Steve Jobs would have wanted it to say the very, very least. And I don't think very many of us have the laundry list, the checklist that Steve Jobs had, but we do have pride in the work that we've done in our lives and what we worked so hard to earn and save. So thinking about legacy, let's talk about those conversations and how you address it, how that becomes part of the plan at Life Plan Financial Design.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. And the Steve Jobs thing is just so interesting because, he had his tenure, he left, then he comes back.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he was kind of revolutionizing the thought process. There's the very famous conference he was at where he introduced the iPhone. Mm-hmm. And it was a web browser, a email device, and a phone. And then he starts saying it faster and faster and faster. I remember my friend Thomas sent me this link because he was so excited about it. He's the biggest Apple guy I know. And so when Thomas saw this, and he's like, it's just one of those things that brought him to life to see the excitement that came from this Apple conference. But, just the idea of taking a couple of complex things, making them simple and putting them in one place. I get why Thomas loved it so much. But for me, it really was a cool thing to see how he took people from just a concept, and he kept it really, really clean too. He also didn't over junk it. Everything about Apple was a super clean model.
Which I'm kind of a little bit angry about because he's the one that made us get rid of all the buttons, and I miss my buttons.
Oh yeah, the BlackBerry people, right? They're like, "Where's my roller ball? Where's
I just need my buttons. I just need some buttons."
But in everything he did, he was like, "We're going to do 3 or 4 things exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be everything to everybody.
Right.
What we're going to do is we're going to do 3 or 4 things exceptionally well. Now, Apple as a company has, a whole lot of stuff. There's some things that people can love or hate about how they do it, where their stuff's made, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot argue the success. They went from being a failing computer company to the number 1 cell phone in the world.
Right.
And we also had this talk off the podcast about people who can kind of see around corners and these ultra visionary leaders.
Yeah.
And he was an ultra visionary leader who saw all these things. He realized what a cell phone could be. I mean, when I try to explain to my kids, they're like, well, when you were a kid, what kind of cell phone did you have? I was like, I didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
We didn't have cell phones. And the first one I had, it didn't text. I thought it was amazing. I could program ringers. And that was super cool.
Yeah.
But so just the way time goes. And what's funny is he does all of this stuff. He's a creative genius, revolutionary thinker and all that. And then he gets cancer, and immediately it becomes about an estate plan. And he's a regular guy at that point. I need a will. I need a trust. I need some basic things taken care of. And again, doing something wonderful at Apple, doing good in life. I think that's what most people just want to be able to say is at the end of the day, did I do good? Did I add value? And did I take my family forward from where we were when I woke up?
Right.
That's a good model to have. When we talk about estate planning and how we work with people, it's really about all the years of work, right? Everything that we have is a result of not just today or yesterday. It's a result of years and years of work, planning, saving, doing things.
Yeah.
And when we think about what happens if planning is done wrong, if I don't have a will, if I don't have a trust, and not everybody may need a trust, but everybody needs a will.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs directions of where your stuff goes. Even if you say, well, I don't have any kids. Okay. Where do you want it to go? Do you want it just to go back to the government? Most people don't.
No.
So we want a will in place. And unfortunately, one of the biggest mistakes I see with people is they don't want to talk about, I understand why we don't want to talk about death and why we don't want to talk about estate planning, but it's critical. I mean, many, many, many Americans die without a will, leaving their estate in a total legal limbo. We do not want to do that.
Some of the most successful people we've talked before about Aretha Franklin and Prince and the lessons we can learn from some of the most brilliant, successful people literally in the world that do not have a will.
Yeah. And they could just have someone do it for them and they don't have to be part of the process, but they still didn't. Right. And so as we talk about you and your family, I don't think of it in terms of like, well, how much is it going to cost for a will? I don't know, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. However, how many years did you work to save everything you have? Right. I mean, it's years and years of work, and to allow $1,000 or whatever the cost is to allow all those years of work to go back into the hands of the government is mind-boggling to me. I get nobody wants to talk about death or taxes, but we have to make sure we're building a plan for it. We need a will. We also want to look at, do I need a trust? Is it important that I have one? And that's independent to each person. Now, we actually just met with a lawyer the other day who came in and he made his case to us why everybody needs a trust. So I thought that was a good pitch. I didn't completely agree with him, and I shared that with him. So I know plenty of people who can get along in Michigan. I can't speak across the country, but in Michigan, there are things that we can put in place that do not require trust, but still pass everything on to your heirs without ever going to probate. So that's a good thing to do too. And know that the rules are state by state. So you can say, well, I got a brother in Missouri who did this. That doesn't matter because Missouri and Michigan are different. Atlanta, Georgia, and Milton, Delaware are different, right? So we have to make sure that it's specific to our state. We want to protect our beneficiaries. We do not want a lack of planning to screw some things up. I have one client who they have a child who has a special needs issue where he's on Medicare. And if he were to inherit Medicaid, if he were to inherit a bunch of money from them, he would be disqualified from Medicaid and would not have the services provided to pay for him out of pocket.
Really?
So instead we can create a special needs trust that says he only is given access to the amount of money he's allowed to have and still stay on Medicaid. That keeps their family planning set up. There's a lot of little things like that you can do to protect. But it begins with the conversations. Another funny one is what we call the knucklehead clause. Some people call them family incentive trusts. It's a nicer way of saying it, but we have 4 kids. I like to think that we're growing 4 good humans and that they're all going to grow up to be great, responsible people. They're young still. They're 14 to 9, so I can't for sure say.
Time will tell. Yeah.
Right. But right now it feels like we're on a good path. But outside of that, what if you have a child who's got some proclivity to addiction? What if you have a child who maybe is a wonderful kid, just stupid with money, right? Like, and we have those, that's why we call it a knucklehead clause, right?
Yeah.
So if someone who you say, man, if I die and that kid gets $500,000, it's gone in 3 months.
Yeah.
And they can't be given that. Okay, great. You can use a trust to create restrictions on it. You can get so much out for a home down payment. You can get so much out when you graduate college or when you get married or when you finish serving in the military, whatever you do, right? You can create whatever layers of protection you want to help protect the kid from themselves. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good planning that can be done, and it's specific to your family because, again, my family is going to be different than you guys, and it's going to be different than anybody who's watching this. So there is good conversations to be had. There's also kind of the other side when people don't want to deal with it. I've got some friends of our family who dealt with this pretty significantly where 2 grandparents, one passes and the other one's remaining. Well, while the one who's remaining is alive, the kids would come and visit and spend time. And every time the one who's living would kind of not rewrite the will, but would kind of like whoever was there saying, hey, I'd like this. Okay, great. Then kind of scribble it on. And then someone else would come through and want the same thing and say, okay, that sounds good, and scribble it on. And it basically was like a people-pleasing model where they don't want to actually deal with it.
Okay.
And then the parent passes, and yet we got 2 or 3 kids all thinking they have claim to the same thing because they were all told by the parent, yeah, you can have that.
Okay.
And the desire there was not to hurt anybody's feelings, right? And so the parent said, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to cause any strife, so I'm just going to, not deal with it, but kind of whoever's there last gets it. And that caused a lot of strife.
Was it a she or he? I can just see it like back in her head, just being like, sure, no problem. Being like, your problem when I'm gone.
Yeah, basically.
That's what she should have written down, being like, they think that she's writing down details. Yep, I promise this to all 3 of you, and all of y'all are going to have to figure this out because I won't be here. Good luck.
Absolutely. And that's what happened. And they literally, she passed, and then when it passed on, all of a sudden now there's a fight that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And out of everything, if I could ever leave my kids, money's great, but love is better. And so if I can make sure that when Kimberly and I pass, that my 4 kids and their spouses all love each other.
Yep.
And that their kids play together. And that this beautiful family we've created continues.
Yep.
That's the legacy we want to leave. So I do want to leave them some money, right? I want to leave them money. I want them to have a better life than I have. And I have a better life that, and that we're giving them that. And my parents gave me a better life than what they had. Like that's what every generation wants.
Yep. Yep.
But at the end of the day, if they have all this money, but don't love each other or fight over it after my death and Kimberly's death, and as a result, they don't talk to each other for 2 years, we screwed up. So we want a goodwill and a good estate plan in place. And then also we want to make sure taxes are dealt with. So that way there's not some big fight with the IRS after we die. That is what a good estate plan does. It's about the money, but it's more about the peace. It's more about the resolution and keeping the family all on the same page. Because when kids lose a parent or a loved one, it's emotional, it's difficult, and they don't make smart decisions most of the time in that. I always joke, but it's the truth. People get dumb when money comes out. And so when you're dealing with an estate plan with no direct will or trust and sets of instructions, and now you got kids fighting over China, over a couch, over whatever, it's like,
yep. What's it all worth?
80 years of your life, and you got these kids, and they've been friends for 55 years. And then over something stupid, now all of a sudden we got strife and animosity. We don't want that. So a good estate plan can help protect you. And again, really, it preserves peace. So this is a part of building a good retirement plan. If you want answers on how to make sure your estate plan is appropriate for you, go to our website, Michigan's Retirement Coach. Click on the button that says Start Your Retirement Roadmap Today. We cover a lot of areas. We cover income planning, investment planning, risk management, tax strategies for both your life and after death, and then also estate planning. It will give you that peace of mind to know that, if something happens, like Steve Jobs, he's on top of the world. All of a sudden, he gets cancer everything changes. And for you, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, but what we have is today. And so to make a plan that makes sense and to live that way. So that go to our page, michigansretirementcoach.com. Click on the button that says Start Your Retirement Roadmap Today, and we'll help make sure that you are prepared for whatever comes.
Helping you plan for your legacy, helping you to know that your family is going to live on the way that you hope that it will after you're gone. This is the goal. We also have links posted in the show notes, so if it's more convenient, you can just click there or get our website, michigansretirementcoach.com.